So what we are showing, this is pretty revolutionary in a sense, that you actually can run a serious and we hope winning national campaign without being dependent on billionaires and corporate America. And I'm very proud of that.
That was Bernie Sanders in Sioux City, Iowa tonight. Bernie Sanders' presidential campaign has broken a fundraising record set by President Obama's re-election campaign 4 years ago. It's not an amount of money. It is the number of contributions. At this point, in President Obama's re-election campaign, he reported 2.2 million contributions. The Sanders campaign has now reported 2.3 million contributions. The Sanders campaign says they broke the record during the Democratic debate Saturday night in New Hampshire.
Should corporate America love Hillary Clinton?
Everybody should.
Will corporate America love a President Sanders?
No, I think they won't. So Hillary and I have a difference. The CEOs of large multinationals may like Hillary. They ain't going to like me, and Wall Street is going to like me even less.
Joining us now, Michael Hiltzik, Pulitzer Prize-winning business columnist for the Los Angeles Times. Sam Stein is still with us. Michael, that fundraising number is quite striking because he's being compared to an incumbent president's fundraising power, and that number of contributions is just stunning.
Well, I think it is. It's stunning and it's inspiring. Certainly something that I think Senator Sanders should be proud of. And I think it does give some of us heart that maybe Citizens United wasn't the overwhelming force on behalf of the wealthy and corporate money that we thought. But it doesn't mean that Citizens United is going away and that there isn't a lot of money coming from corporate sources into politics that we should be concerned about. And
Sam Stein, Citizens United is having kind of a rough year with the Jeb Bush candidacy, which was funded in a way that, you know, Citizens United would be made easier. And then there's Trump there saying that I'm not using any of this contributed money from the big contributors to these kinds of campaigns.
Well, let me start with Bernie quickly, because I think that's the remarkable story, which is not just the number of contributors he's had, but towards the end of the last fundraising cycle, there was only about a few dozen or so people who had actually given the maximum amount of contribution, which means that of those 2.3 million donors that he has, or contributors he has, they can continue to give. It's a fire hose of grassroots money that will sustain him through the campaign, and it's a really incredible thing for him to have built as a senator from Vermont, mind you, not a big fundraising state. Now, as for Citizens United, yes, I think it's true that the super PAC culture hasn't had the sway that we all thought it would on a presidential level. But I don't think that is reason to say that this is not having an effect on campaign finance in general. I think what you're seeing is on lower level elections, even senatorial elections, they have a massive sway. And you can have a few contributors, a few donors, simply overwhelm a very small election by one check. And that's what Citizens United did. Maybe it didn't affect the presidential races like we thought, but lower down, it could have an enormous impact.
Let's listen to more of what Bernie Sanders said about his relationship with Wall Street.
I don't think I'm going to get a whole lot of campaign contributions from Wall Street. I don't have a super PAC. I don't want campaign contributions from corporate America. And let me be clear. While there are some great corporations creating jobs and trying to do the right thing, in my view, and I say this very seriously, the greed of the billionaire class, the greed of Wall Street is destroying this economy and is destroying the lives of millions of Americans. We need an economy that works for the middle class, not just a handful of billionaires, and I will fight and lead to make that happen.
Michael, I had a guest on this program, Wall Street for Bernie, where there's a bunch of people on Wall Street making serious money who like the sound of this, who know, in their view, who agree with Bernie Sanders' notion of how much abuse goes on in their sector, and which they think is unfair, which they'd like to see something happen.
Well, I think a lot of people on Wall Street are concerned and nervous. They understand that the sort of income and wealth inequality that we've seen developing in this country has real social consequences. And the social consequences, if they develop, are not going to be happy for the Wall Street class. So I think you will see some support for some of these notions, and you already have. Now, that being said, I don't see hedge fund operators like Paul Singer lining up to support either Bernie Sanders or Hillary Clinton. They're putting their money behind Republicans. I think the shareholding and the corporate executive class as a whole and overwhelmingly are looking for a Republican to support. They're not, certainly Bernie Sanders would be their worst nightmare as president, but they wouldn't be that happy with Hillary Clinton. They really want a Republican. They think Republican policies are best for them.
Sam Stein, I have good news for you. Donald Trump doesn't want to kill you, or at least says he doesn't want to kill you. He's had the weekend to think about his praise from Vladimir Putin and the issue of just how many reporters has Vladimir Putin had killed. And here is what Donald Trump said about it just about an hour and a half ago tonight. Let's listen to this.
He said nice things. I didn't know. I never met him, so I didn't know. And he said nice things. All of a sudden, I'm hearing things like, oh, isn't it terrible that Putin is saying that? That's not terrible. That's good. That's like a good thing, not a bad thing. And then they said, you know, he's killed reporters. And I don't like that. I'm totally against that. By the way, I hate some of these people, but I'd never kill them. I hate them.
Sam hates him, but doesn't want to kill him.
It's too bad.
A big advance for Donald Trump.
It's too bad. I just got that security system installed in my house, and now he says he doesn't want to kill us, so maybe I should uninstall it. I mean, it's not funny. It's not funny. He's talking about killing reporters. I mean, I don't mean to be such a buzzkill, but, you know, it's ridiculous that a presidential candidate is, as an aside, alerting his crowds that, in fact, he doesn't want to kill reporters. Just think about that.
Yeah, and Michael, it also shows, as usual with Trump, this relentless ignorance about everything, and in this case, the ignorance of what kind of bravery it takes in Putin's Russia to actually try to be an honest reporter.
Well, that's true, not only in Putin's Russia, but in so many places around the world. And for Trump to be talking about how he hates reporters, look, the irony of this is that he's benefited from journalistic coverage probably more than any other candidate in the field.
He loves reporters.
He loves reporters if they say what he likes, and if they don't, well, then he hates them, and that's very Putin-esque, actually.
Yeah, it is. Michael Hiltzik and Sam Stein, thank you both for joining me tonight.
Thanks, Lawrence.
Really appreciate it. Thank you. So the presidential campaign has come to this. Donald Trump is calling Hillary Clinton a liar and demanding an apology for lying about him. Now, here is the most important thing that Donald Trump supporters believe.
We've got people in positions of power who I know for a fact are liars. Liars.
That's what they say when Donald Trump gets caught in one of his many lies. The Trump supporters who are smart enough to realize that Trump is lying don't hold it against him because they favor his policy ideas, and they're willing to live with the lying because they believe that all politicians lie and that all presidents lie. Liberals were the original attackers of presidential lying, and they began by attacking a Democratic president for saying this.
Renewed hostile actions against United States ships on the high seas in the Gulf of Tonkin have today required me to order the military forces of the United States to take action in reply.
Liberals accused two presidents in a row of lying about Vietnam, Lyndon Johnson and Richard Nixon. And then Nixon got to the point where everyone accused him of being a liar, including many in his own party.
People have got to know whether or not their president is a crook. Well, I'm not a crook.
Trump supporters believe that this was a lie.
My opponent won't rule out raising taxes, but I will, and the Congress will push me to raise taxes, and I'll say no, and they'll push, and I'll say no, and they'll push again, and I'll say to them, Read my lips.
Now, in all fairness, to borrow a phrase that Donald Trump often uses and doesn't mean, that was probably not a lie when George Bush said that. He surely hoped to never raise taxes, but Democrats in Congress forced that reality on him. Just as it probably wasn't a lie when Bill Clinton ran promising a middle-class tax cut and then raised taxes on everyone, including a gasoline tax, in what became the biggest tax increase in history because economic reality demanded it. But this was proven to be a lie.
I did not have sexual relations with that woman, Miss Lewinsky. I never told anybody to lie, not a single time, never.
Lies like that are rare in presidential politics, but they live forever. Most of what Trump supporters think of as lies are things that politicians hoped to do, but it just didn't turn out that way.
If we don't stop extending our troops all around the world in nation-building missions, then we're going to have a serious problem coming down the road, and I'm going to prevent that.
We're going to lead by shutting down Guantanamo and restoring habeas corpus in this country so that we offer them an example.
Trump supporters have granted their candidate a license to lie at will about anything because they believe that all politicians lie, which is why the single most important thing a candidate must do in running against Donald Trump is never, never lie. Never say something that can be proven untrue, like most things that Donald Trump says. Hillary Clinton made that mistake this weekend in the Democratic debate.
He is becoming ISIS's best recruiter. They are going to people showing videos of Donald Trump insulting Islam and Muslims in order to recruit more radical jihadists.
An understandable exaggeration, an understandable mistake. And Donald Trump, of course, demanded an apology for that falsehood because no one is more outraged by lies than pathological liars like Donald Trump. Instead, the Clinton campaign today decided to fight Trumpism with Trumpism. As to an apology, the campaign issued a statement saying, hell no. They decided to follow the never apologize rule of the Trump campaign, even though what Hillary Clinton said is not true, not provably true. And so the Clinton campaign has once again confirmed for Trump supporters that the right thing to do when you're caught saying something untrue, when you're caught exaggerating, saying something that cannot be supported by fact, the right thing to do is to never, ever apologize. And the Clinton campaign's refusal to do the right thing, not out of respect for Donald Trump, who deserves none, but out of respect for the truth, diminishes her in this one instance. Not to the Donald Trump level, no one could get that low, but her refusal to simply say, hey, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have suggested that ISIS is using Donald Trump in recruitment videos now, because we don't yet know if they're using that. Not saying that is a lost opportunity. There is nothing more winning than a gracious, generous apology, especially when we all understand where Hillary Clinton's exaggeration came from. Everyone understands that what Hillary Clinton said might not be true right now at this moment, but it is likely to become true. And what she said does not compare in magnitude to any of Donald Trump's lies, from President Obama's birth certificate through the lie about thousands of people cheering on 9/11 in New Jersey. There is no comparison between Hillary Clinton's exaggeration, her minor lie, if you will, and Donald Trump's giant, constant, repeated lies. But not in the minds of Trump supporters. Hillary Clinton had the chance to teach Trump supporters the dignified way of dealing with a statement that isn't true, a statement that cannot be supported by fact. She could have shown Donald Trump supporters what humility and dignity and honesty looks like. Instead, she used the Trump tactic against Trump. Joining us now, Hunter Walker, national correspondent for Yahoo News, Matt K. Lewis, senior contributor for the Daily Caller, columnist for The Week, and author of Too Dumb to Fail, and Sam Stein, senior politics editor at the Huffington Post and an MSNBC contributor. Sam Stein.
Yes.
Having heard my case about why a classy apology would have been a nice thing to see here. What do you think? Should Hillary Clinton have apologized? And I'd like you to analyze it as a political matter, as a political strategy, and in any other way you'd like to.
Well, I thought you were right on. I think that you assessed the issue correctly, and you sort of noted underneath everything else that the rarity with which politicians ever apologize for either outright lies or misstatements or exaggerations is remarkable. And it would be a nice breath of fresh air, I would say, for a politician to step forward and say, yeah, I was wrong in this case. And I actually don't think it would cost her all that much. My guess is that they calculated that if she were to back down to Trump, maybe some of her Democratic supporters would have looked at it and said, ooh, do we really want someone who's not going to fight this great grand bully on the Republican side of the aisle? And that probably is one thing that fed into her calculus here. But I think you're right that it would have proven more effective, a bit more gracious, obviously, had she said, yeah, there's no recruitment video out there, but the bigger problems of him feeding this this terrorist ideology do exist and are really problematic and are substantively, something you should be worried about.
Well, you talk about our supporters. Twitter is an unscientific sample, as we know, but I tweeted a little while ago the question of should Hillary Clinton apologize about this. Well, I got everybody said no. Every single Clinton supporter out there on my Twitter feed said absolutely no, she shouldn't reply. Here's one from Franny Ryan, and she tweeted, in keeping with Trump's liar status, HRC should just say, why, sir, I did apologize. Did you and your people miss it? And I replied to her saying, so you're saying that Hillary Clinton should handle this the way Donald Trump would handle this? And Matt Lewis, that's my point, is you have a chance here to distinguish yourself from Donald Trump and show the right way of handling something like this, because it makes it more difficult down the road. The thousands of times Hillary Clinton's going to want to say what Donald Trump just said is a lie.
Yeah, look, I think that Hillary needed to, if they were going to walk away from this, they needed to do it very quickly. And she misspoke. She feels that Mr. Trump's rhetoric is dangerous and that it could inspire, some backlash. But once she enlists her team to start lying too and to start spinning, and they've been on TV making it, well, it wasn't a video, but it was on the internet or whatever. Now, they can't back away from it. So they're sort of trapped. And I think what this does, it's not a game-changing moment, but I do think that what this does is it reinforces the trustworthy notion about Hillary. There is that stereotype about her as well. So politically, this does matter. I think the problem is that partisans on both sides of the aisle, I actually think it's even what you were saying about the Trump supporters. I actually think it's even worse than what you were saying. I think that part of it is lying is actually good because the ends justify the means, and because you have to lie because the other side's going to lie. So in a way, lying and fighting and playing dirty has become a virtue.
So let's listen to what Trump said about it tonight in Michigan just about an hour and a half ago.
Donald Trump is on video, and ISIS is using him on the video to recruit. And it turned out to be a lie. She's a liar. No, it turned out to be a lie.
And Hunter Walker, if she had done the quick apology that, we don't know that yet, and just saying we don't know it yet, and leaving the implication that they probably will use Trump on video, which I think everyone is just waiting for at some point, Trump tonight, in that same moment, would have then had to add, and he would have added, well, she apologized, so, and he would have gloated in the apology. We all know that he would have gloated in the apology. But the lesson would have been there, that this what I would call an exaggeration that she did, or very minor sort of exaggeration, colorful exaggeration that she did, that she backed off of it immediately because she cares about truth in a way that Donald Trump doesn't.
Well,
Lawrence, you're speaking in moral terms, and let's not forget, this is politics.
No, I mean, let me stop. Hunter, let me say it. There's two ways to look at it. I can make the moral case, but I'm making the political case here, that for a political audience, you should teach them the difference, and you should not allow, you should fight against the concept that all politicians lie, because that's fuel for Trump.
Not only do I not think there's anything to be gained from showing weakness, but also fighting each other is exactly where both Hillary and Trump want to be. I talked to people on the Clinton campaign at their headquarters during a debate watch party they had, and this was a few months ago. They were all talking about how Trump helps them. It's like an open secret. They think he illuminates the worst parts of the GOP. So they would love to be feuding directly with Donald Trump. But I will make a separate point, which is that I don't really think she lied as much as everyone is saying here. She was speaking somewhat figuratively, but the Clinton campaign has pointed to Rita Katz, who is literally the preeminent analyst in this sphere. And Katz has said, yeah, there's no video. There is no video, but ISIS is talking about Donald Trump, and they're very happy about his arguments. The same way that Clinton feels like Trump can help her, ISIS feels like Trump can help them. And if Rita Katz says it, this is a woman who gets every ISIS video first. She has a long record of knowing what they're saying when no one else does. And that's a lot of evidence as far as I'm concerned.
No, but let me just say, by that standard, though, when Donald Trump said that there were thousands and thousands of Muslims celebrating in New Jersey, I could say, well, he was probably right, because there were certainly some. There's a report I just saw today where there were pockets of it. So, no, I think we need to hold our politicians accountable to be a little more accurate and specific. And so that's a little bit, maybe granting them a little bit more leeway than we should.
But, you know, let me go back to Hunter's point, which I think is a really good point. What I'm saying is, within the context of saying, you know, I shouldn't have put it that way, saying all the things you just said, and saying, here's the evidence that I was hearing about, this is what I was hearing about, I shouldn't have stated it that way, and I'm going to, you know, be more careful, and then just be patient, you know, and we may be, you know, a few weeks away from the first ISIS video that Donald Trump is in, but I just think that if you allow Trump to define strength as never apologizing, if you fall into that trap, he is going to win that contest. There's just no way to beat him at that. Hunter, go ahead.
Well, I think you're absolutely right that that would have been the best moral way to handle it, maybe in one sense strategically. And, you know, I think I'm not alone. I think you're not alone in wishing that all of these campaigns would be a little more honest and a little more